Hello, welcome to Workplace Wake Up. I'm Jen Shaw. Every week, I spend about 15 minutes covering key legal developments, introducing you to interesting guests, and providing some entertainment to start your workday. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As you know, this is an employment law podcast. This is not a political perspective podcast. This topic today is not about my political perspectives. This topic is very important because right now the federal government is not modeling best practices when they are terminating employees. So as all of you know, for the last couple of months, almost 2 months since President Trump took office, there has been some chaos, that's probably not a strong enough word, in the federal government in terms of employee status, who gets to remain, who's being terminated. There are different practices that the administration has been using, and most of them are just really a bad idea. So I thought it would be important to chat with all of you this week about not following what the government is doing and really thinking about if you're in a situation where you need to terminate an employee or you need to do a layoff, you need to do a reduction in force, what should you actually be doing? So we were in Yellowstone about a month ago now. And we heard from all sorts of U.S. Forest Service people who had been laid off, who had received letters from Elon Musk and his team in Doge. And one of the big complaints we heard was, look, if the government needs to reduce employees, we get it. But I don't deserve to receive an email that says the government has decided I am inefficient or I am not doing good at my job. I am not performing well. That is just not accurate. I just received a glowing evaluation from my supervisor who knows a lot more about me than Elon Musk does. And what I found really interesting was many of these individuals understood, as most of us do, the need to make the bureaucracy in government more efficient, to save money where we can, to balance our budget. All of those things I think are important to just about everybody in this country. The concerns that these folks were raising with me was more about the way it's being done. So this sort of haphazard approach of, okay, we're going to send everybody an email, and this happened a few weeks ago, and tell them that they need to let us know what they've done in the last week. We're essentially doing a desk audit, right? Tell me how you've been spending your time during the last month. And if you don't do that, we're just going to assume you have resigned. Now, obviously, there were all sorts of legal challenges and discussions about that whole thing. Most of the agencies in the government actually told their employees not to respond to the email, and they were not considered to have resigned. This is actually a strategy that Elon Musk used in some of his other companies, and he got a lot of backlash. I mean, there were a lot of employees who said, don't tell me I'm not good at my job. If you need to eliminate my job because of an economic issue or an inefficiency issue within the organization, fine, just tell me that. Just be honest. And if I could give you one piece of advice when you are separating somebody's employment, either for performance or because you're making more of a reduction in force decision, it's be honest. So I have people who tell me all the time, yeah, I got to get rid of Matilda. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say we're eliminating her job. And then in 6 months, I'll refill the job. You can't do that. You cannot do that. If you tell someone their job is eliminated, that means for the foreseeable future, you do not need that job. You are eliminating that job. It's being taken out of your budget. It is being taken out of your organizational chart. Okay, it's gone. Now, if there's a significant change in business 6 months from now, and you decide, okay, you know what, I guess I do need to do something here, I'm going to have to bring back this role, there cannot be any evidence that that was your plan all along. I know it's uncomfortable, but it is much smarter to just be honest with Matilda and tell her, Matilda, it's not working out. You're missing deadlines. You're not coming to work on time. You're not respectful. You're not professional. We need to part ways. Because what are you going to do if you tell her you eliminated her job, and then when you post that job again, she applies for it? She's already had the job. What are you going to do now? Oh, well, suddenly she's not qualified for the job because you never gave her performance reviews, which is why you wanted to go the reduction in force route in the first place, because you felt like you couldn't defend a performance termination. So being honest about the reason why you are making these decisions is critically important. The other thing is think very carefully when you are ending somebody's employment. The two most dangerous things you do as an employer is hire people and fire people. That is where you're going to get 90% of your potential liability. All right? Who you do or do not hire and who you do or do not fire. So when you are thinking about whether to terminate someone, put on your plaintiff's lawyer's hat. Think about, what is this individual's best argument that I don't have a legitimate reason for what I'm doing? What is this person going to be able to say about their prior evaluations? Did we just give them a raise? Did we just give them the ability to earn a new bonus or a new incentive? Well, you wouldn't normally do that for someone who is underperforming. So now you want to come back and say, we're going to eliminate your job. There are 45 people here like you, but you're going to be one of the 5 we're eliminating. Well, you better figure out how to defend that decision, right? This all gets back to doing your job as a leader. So most of you who listen to this podcast are HR professionals, business owners, folks who have to make human resources decisions. There is no shortcut to performance management. If you need to be delivering performance feedback, deliver it. I know it isn't fun. I know it isn't easy. I know we don't like doing it. I get it. Well, unless, some people really seem to enjoy it. Most of us don't. Most of us don't want to be taking away someone's job or giving them negative performance reviews. So we come up with this idea of, we need to eliminate your job. Well, if it's not true, don't do it. The other thing I want you to think about is when you are hiring somebody, all right, when you make a job offer, make sure everybody's on board. Make sure that it's clear we have the funding for that position. Many, many people have reached out to me over the last couple of weeks to tell me I had a job offer and then they've rescinded it now because of what's going on in the federal government. And it's heartbreaking. These are people who've gone through lengthy recruitment processes and interview processes, and then the job is just being taken away from them. Now, are you legally able to do that? Sure, as long as you have a legitimate reason to do it. But you've got to show that. It's always going to be your burden as the employer to show your legitimate reason for making a decision like that. There's no way around the fact that it's going to be your burden. You're going to have to prove that legitimate business reason for what you're doing. Now, the federal government is already being subject to incredible scrutiny on the decisions they're making because many of these employees are what are called civil servants. They work for the government. They have contractual rights to their jobs. Okay, so when you terminate somebody who is contractually entitled to their position, they have appeal rights. This, by the way, is why the administration was focused on probationary employees. Because once somebody is hired in the government, they usually are going to serve a probationary period during which they are considered at-will employees. Employees who can be terminated for any reason, with or without notice, with or without cause, as long as it's a legitimate reason. Once they are what's called permanent civil service employee, then they have all sorts of additional protections. So the idea was, okay, let's just terminate all of the probationary employees. Well, probationary employees have the same rights as private sector employees. You have to be able to show you have a legitimate business reason for what you're doing. So when you're picking somebody for termination, it can't be because they just posted something on social media about not liking the administration, right? That's called protected activity. So you have to be very careful about what you're doing when you are making decisions like this in your own organization. There needs to be a strategy. There needs to be a plan. How are we approaching this? How are we selecting who's going to be covered by our decision? Is it a group? Are we going to give some sort of separation pay? By the way, I do not recommend that employers have a severance plan where there is a guaranteed or dictated amount of separation pay in the event of a layoff or separation. You should have the ability to make those decisions one-off when you need to based on the circumstances. Now, some of you are required to have more of a formal severance plan, either because you're in an organization that has bylaws that require it, or because you have negotiated it as part of a union agreement, or you've offered it as part of a package to an employee. But otherwise, the more you can save the discretion for you to make decisions in whatever way you think is appropriate at the time, the better off you're going to be. Now, I also want you to think about this idea of, okay, well, we fired people. Now we want to hire them all back, right? So this happened, obviously, this has happened in the government where the administration, for example, has fired people that they realized they needed, like air traffic controllers. We made a boo-boo, come back. Well, guess what? People aren't always going to be happy to come back. Now there's a trust issue. Now there's a feeling that they don't have the security that they thought they had. Remember, the reason public employees have these protections is because when someone new becomes the executive or the county administrator or the president, they're not supposed to be able to get rid of people for inappropriate reasons. They're not supposed to be able to just randomly say, you're losing your job because I feel like it. They have to have a legitimate reason to do it. So the protections in the public sector are different than those that we see in the private sector most of the time, except for those probationary employees. Having said that, the laws are the same in the private sector in terms of what employers have to be able to show to justify their decisions in these areas. So whether or not you're a public entity, you've got to always understand that you can't just randomly take people's jobs away from them if you care about liability, if you care about reputational harm, if you care about retention and recruitment. These are all going to be important issues for you to be thinking about. Now, remember that as you are making decisions in the workplace, many of you are not going to be making those decisions on your own, right? Many of you are going to be in a situation where you're working with managers or supervisors or owners to figure out what's going on. Be patient. Don't rush these decisions. It's never a good idea. You rush the decision, the email has a typo in it, you send it to somebody you didn't mean to send it to, and now you have a cultural issue. Now you have a situation where the employees may not want to be involved. They may not want to stay there. They may not want to be part of your universe. Okay? So do not follow what the administration is doing. They may have a good motive. They may have a good intent, but of course, what really matters is the process. And the process is not going the way it should be going. That's the problem, okay? We're not seeing the protections to which these employees are entitled. The administration is not recognizing the legal protections that these employees have in certain situations. And we're creating a lot of negativity just, for example, in the stock market, right? You know, where people are thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So we've seen up and downs in the market. We've seen up and downs in the interest rates. We've seen so many things changing. So have a philosophy that makes sense when you're talking about termination. Whether it is a one-off or it is a group that you have to eliminate for business reasons, make sure you can justify those reasons. Make sure you've got the documentation and the information necessary. Everyone, before we go today, I want to remind you, if you're in the Sacramento area, we are having a 2025 HR Leadership Summit that is sponsored both by Sarah, the Sacramento area human resources folks, and Cal Sherm. It is going to be amazing. It's between April 23rd and April 25th. It'll be held at the Sheraton Grand Hotel in Sacramento. Of course, you'll get Sherm credit for your participation. I'm going to be speaking on April 23rd on my birthday at 3:30 in the afternoon on the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. So I would love to see you there. I hope you can all join us. In the meantime, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to check out our public seminar offerings that are coming up. We have got so much going on in terms of leaves of absence and investigations workshops and equal employment opportunity courses in Spanish. Chris Lopez and Cristobal Sandoval conduct these sessions in Spanish, no interpretation. They are fantastic and clients are loving them. So make sure you go to our training website. And everybody, thanks again for your support. Make sure you are following us and you are listening to the podcast. Let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions. We're always open to hearing them. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Workplace Wake Up, including our guests and hosts, do not provide legal advice in this podcast. Do not act upon any of the information discussed in this podcast without first consulting a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to spread the word, please share it with others. Post about it on social media and/or rate and review it. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and email us at info@shawlawgroup.com.